Welcome back, everyone, to Between the Verses with Josh and Maya.
And thanks for being here with us again. We appreciate you tuning in.
We really do. A special welcome to you if you're a first-time listener. Don't forget to check out our previous 6 episodes too. Some food for thought in there, we hope. Our podcast is a space where Maya and I try to talk about faith, the Bible, and just, well, everyday life.
All the in-between stuff, how it all fits, sometimes more snugly than others. And the main goal here is to have an honest conversation without taking ourselves too seriously. We keep things light and a little carefree for everyone and anyone to benefit from.
Absolutely. So today, Maya, we have a question that some people may find a little bit cheeky, just a little bit.
I think so. The question we're diving into is this: does God actually care about the small stuff?
The small, tiny stuff. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, most of our day-to-day stress, it doesn't come from these huge, life-altering, dramatic moments.
No, not at all. It's the small things, the little paper cuts that just pile up, you know? It's the missed messages or that email you forgot to reply to.
For me, it's losing my keys. I swear, I spent 10 minutes this morning just looking for my keys. They were in my other jacket. It's not a crisis, but it starts your whole day off feeling more frantic than it needed to be.
Yes, frantic is the perfect word. Or running late and you hit every single red light on the way.
Every single one. Or, and this is a big one for me, saying the wrong thing in a meeting or a conversation and then just replaying it in your head for the rest of the day.
The cringe replay. It's the worst. And it feels strange sometimes to even think about bringing those specific things to God.
It sure does. It feels,
I don't know, almost disrespectful. They feel too small, too boring, too petty. I mean, here is God holding galaxies together, and I'm going to bother him about the fact I can't find a matching pair of socks. It feels absurd.
and self-indulgent. There are big problems in the world, real suffering, and I'm worried about this tiny thing. But, and this is what we want to get into today, Jesus does talk about the small things. An awful lot, actually.
And I think one of the most famous examples, it's the one that always comes to my mind first at least, is when he talks about sparrows.
The sparrows, such a simple image. The moment comes from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 10.
And there's a similar version in Luke's, I think.
Yes. So Jesus is speaking to his disciples and he sends them out into the world. He's being really honest with them, telling them that following him won't always be easy, that they'll face fear and rejection. And it's right in the middle of that conversation about dangers that lie ahead that Jesus brings up sparrows, these tiny little birds that honestly most wouldn't notice making up part of the scenery. They're just background noise. And Jesus makes this incredible statement that not one of them is forgotten by God, that not one of them falls to the ground without God knowing.
And that's such an interesting choice of animal. He could have said an eagle or a lion, something majestic.
Something impressive.
Right, but he chooses a sparrow, because sparrows aren't impressive, are they? They're not rare or exotic.
No, they're everywhere. They're common. And yet, that's the very example he uses for what God's care looks like. It's attention, it's notice, seeing value in the ordinary.
It's paying attention to the very thing everyone else overlooks. That's a powerful idea.
A powerful image. And Jesus turns that image back toward the people listening to him. If God notices the smallest, most easiest overlooked lives, then your fears are not too small. Your worries are not insignificant.
Even the things you hesitate to bring to God because they feel minor compared to everything else going on still matter.
And he doubles down and pairs that with another image that's even more specific and personal.
He does. He says that even the very hairs on your head are all numbered.
Which is, on one hand, incredibly comforting.
And on the other hand, just a little bit funny and weird.
I mean, when was the last time anyone listening actually took an inventory of their own hair?
Ever. And does the number fluctuate? Does God update the heavenly spreadsheet every time I'm in the shower? What's the system here?
Right. But of course, the point isn't the literal number, it's the detail. The point is that God's care isn't some vague general, I care about humanity in principle kind of thing. It's specific and ridiculously, wonderfully personal.
That specificity is so important. And there's another story that gets at that same idea from a different angle, the parable about the lost coin.
Yes, love that one.
The story comes from Luke's gospel, and the context is important. Jesus is in the process of being criticized, really. Religious leaders are upset because he's spending time with people they consider unworthy, sinners, outsiders, and such. And instead of defending himself, Jesus tells a series of short stories, one about a lost sheep, one about a lost coin, and later one about a lost son.
They're all answering the same question, right? What does God actually care about?
Right. And in the parable of the lost coin, Jesus talks about a woman who loses a silver coin. It's just a single coin. It's not a fortune. It's not her entire life savings. It's just one small piece of silver that's gone missing. But the whole story is about the frantic effort to find it.
She lights a lamp, she sweeps the whole house, she's turning everything upside down.
And then when she finds it, she throws a party. She calls her friends and neighbors to celebrate with her. And from the outside, you look at that and think, that seems a bit much. That's an overreaction for one coin.
The party probably cost more than the coin was worth.
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? It always looks excessive when you don't value the thing that was lost. From God's perspective, that one lost thing or that one lost person is worth turning the whole house upside down for. The value is immense. It's not measured by size or usefulness. It's measured by love.
And that idea of daily small things shows up again somewhere else really central, in the Lord's Prayer, right? Give us this day our daily bread.
Yes, he teaches people to pray for their daily bread, not, future bread for the next decade, not an emergency stockpile of bread for the apocalypse, but daily bread. It's such an ordinary, humble request. It isn't dramatic. It's actually repetitive by nature, because you have to ask for it again tomorrow and the next day.
It assumes that our need is constant and ongoing. It's not a one-and-done thing.
Exactly. Daily bread is about the everyday stuff. Food, yes, but also energy, patience, strength, just enough to get through today. Which is interesting, because so many of our modern anxieties are daily too.
They are. They're not always these huge, life-altering fears. Sometimes it's just, the constant low-grade hum of worry about work or bills or friends or kids. It resets every morning when we wake up.
So praying for daily bread, it's an invitation. It suggests that God actually cares about the rhythm of our lives. Not just the big highlights or the big crises, but the ordinary, sometimes boring pattern of just getting through another Tuesday.
I think in our culture, though, there's this intense pressure that the small stuff is something we should just, handle ourselves.
Oh, for sure. This idea of the self-made person, that needing help with the small things is a sign of weakness or that you're not trying hard enough.
Right. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We should save up our faith moments or whatever for the big emergency.
But the Bible doesn't make that distinction. It doesn't have categories of worthy prayers and unworthy prayers. It seems to invite all of it in. It assumes a kind of daily dependence.
And I know there are days when, objectively, my life is fine. Nothing terrible has happened, but a whole series of tiny, small frustrations just makes everything feel heavy.
Yes, the traffic jam, you spill coffee on your shirt, you get a passive-aggressive email. None of them are a big deal on their own, but together, the weight feels real.
And that's where, for me, that sparrow's idea is so practical. It suggests that God's attention itself is an act of love, that simply just noticing is a form of caring.
You got it. God's care isn't only activated by a fire alarm. It's the constant, steady, quiet presence in the background, in the unnoticed moments, in the details we're convinced no one else sees.
And what does that practically look like? I mean, for me, it's not always stopping to have a formal prayer about my lost keys. Sometimes it's just a one-sentence running conversation in my head. A simple, God, help me find these things. I'm going to be late. It's more about an ongoing dialogue than a formal event.
I think that's it. It's about posture, a posture of openness. There's just something so reassuring and freeing about that idea. The idea that nothing is too small to mention, that you don't need to rank your problems in order of importance before you're allowed to talk to God about them.
You don't have to justify why it matters to you. If it's making your heart anxious, if it's taking up your mental space, it's allowed to matter, even if it seems silly and you'll laugh about it an hour later.
Exactly. The Bible doesn't suggest that God only listens to big, well-composed, important prayers. It just suggests that God listens. Full stop.
And man, that can really change how everyday life feels, doesn't it? It means you don't have to wait for a crisis. You don't have to save God for emergencies like a cosmic fire extinguisher.
You can talk about the missed bus, the awkward conversation at the grocery store, the project at work that just isn't coming together.
And sometimes naming those things, just bringing them into the light, is enough to lighten them. Not because the problem magically disappeared,
but because you're not carrying it all by yourself anymore. Someone else knows.
Right, the small stuff adds up to become a heavy weight. But I guess the good news is that small acts of care add up too.
So I think there's one simple takeaway we can leave with everyone today.
I'm listening.
Well, if God notices sparrows and counts the hairs on your head and invites us to pray for something as simple as our daily bread, then it seems pretty clear that nothing in your life is invisible to Him. No detail is too small.
That's a perfect way to put it. You don't need to filter your prayers or decide what's worthy of God's attention.
Nope, you can just bring the whole mess. Some days our faith journey looks dramatic and epic, and other days it just looks very, very ordinary.
And both matter.
Both matter deeply.
Well, that's it for today. Good chat, Maya. And to all of you listening wherever you are, thank you for spending this time with us again.
We really hope this episode made you smile and maybe feel a little bit lighter.
Until next time, take care of yourself.
And we'll see you between the verses.